Okie doke, quick update here. I just heated this on to, I don't know, 300 or 350 degrees or something, and it slid right on, no problem. It's just always nerve-wracking. But yeah, I've got the jack shaft in here. So you'll see there's a 0 here, and a 0 here, and a 0 here. That is top dead center, which must, correlates to number 1 over here. And it also correlates to, you can see it on the jack shaft, 0, and might not be able to see it here, 0. And yeah, that's top dead center for cylinder number 1. And we'll set up the cams and get the heads on. You button up the bottom cradle here with a good engine sealant. I use the Permatex stuff, which is very, very similar to Honda Bond. Matter of fact, it might even be the same stuff. The viscosity of it is almost identical. I sometimes use Loctite 515 or 518, but with these, I've had really good luck with this particular sealant. I use this sealant with Porsche engines as well. Works great. Okay, we've got the chain on here, and this is the SS chain tensioner that caused so much controversy back in the day. So this is essentially the same chain tensioner that the Maserati V8 engines use. It's got a small oil feeder in here, but there's a spring in here, and there's a locking mechanism for this shoe. So each time the chain stretches a little bit, it clicks into place one click further, so it can't go back any further. It stays where it is. And then of course the arm applies pressure against the chain here. So I've got the engine flipped upside down right now while I get some stuff in. So the oil pump is driven off of a tiny spline shaft. I should have showed it to you. It's about that long. And it's got splines on either end that meet into the crank and then into the oil pump here. And you just you insert it into the crank side, and then you turn this to kind of get the splines to line up. Now, one of my favorite things about these engines is this right here is, of course, the jack shaft, which is driven off the crank up here by the chain that we saw earlier. This, on the other side of this shaft seal back here, is oil. On the other side of this is where you fit the water pump seal. I'll show it to you here. Okay, so this is the water pump seal. It's just a standard shaft seal. There's nothing particularly special about it. But the beauty about this is there is a water pump, but it's not a traditional water pump. You can't remove it. There's no bearings to go bad in the water pump. There's no water pump cartridge or anything. The water pump is literally the jack shaft. The jack shaft spins the impeller, and this seal right here is what seals water from the oil on the other side. Now, sometimes what can happen is this oil seal back here can go bad and lead to oil getting into, well, oil will drip out of this hole here. And you'll know, because a lot of oil will come out if this goes bad, because this engine runs a lot of oil pressure, as do an awful lot of Italian engines. But this seal right here, I mean, they so rarely go bad. They just hold up for a long time. And they're just super robust. This uses the same seal out of your standard like swimming pool pump. So they just go and go forever and ever. There it is. The pump seal's installed. I put a little bit more of that Honda Bond around it just to seal it up more, because it's going steel onto aluminum. And then this giant impeller fits right over it. There's a keyway in there you got to line up. And then there's a lock nut that goes on after that. And yeah, we'll finish getting the rest of this buttoned up here soon. I think I'm going to call it a day today. Had pretty good progress. I've got one of the heads on the 1 to 3 bank. What's funny with these is there's no, outside of the flywheel, on the flywheel there's a top dead center mark, but the only way you can see it is through the hole on the transmission bell housing, which mounts, you know, to the engine here. So there's no way to see top dead center with just the engine apart while the front cover is on, because the zeros under there are not very accurate. They don't depict anything. So anyway, I put my own here. Anyway, this is what we've got going so far. The tricky part with these is having the chain in two pieces and having to fish it while you're putting the head down, having to fish it through that. That is a coolant pipe that goes through from this side to this side. And what hooks up on this other side is there's a manifold that goes from here over to the water pump over here, and of course over here does the same thing on this side. And I'll get this side together either later tonight or tomorrow. I want to go jogging first. I'm kind of beat. That's my therapy as I go out and I go jogging at the end of each day. But yeah, I think it's coming out pretty well here. I've got to put in the plug here. This is the back side of the main oil gallery plug. Just to give you an idea of how gigantic the oil gallery is on these. You know, this is just a small, you know, V6 engine, and oil galleries aren't this big. Or I think they might be that big on gigantic, you know, LS engines that are made nowadays. But I think small block and old Ford small block engines, they didn't have oil galleries that were that big. Yeah, so these things are just incredibly well fed with regards to oil. Oh, I put the starter on. This is a high torque starter that's available through the Merak group. And these work really great, and especially well when you got a motor that's got higher compression in it. This just spins it over much better. The original starter motor is made by this French company, of course, French company, called Ducellier. And it weighs like 20 friggin' pounds. It's this huge thing, and you know, it worked okay, but they were just, my gosh, they sucked an incredible amount of power. They didn't spin the engine over as quick. They didn't have as much torque. So anyway, I'm glad that these are available now. And almost every vintage Italian car, you can get something like this for that. And that just, you know, makes classic car ownership a lot easier. Yeah. Now, setting cam timing on these is actually a lot easier than you think. We just put it at top dead center for each individual bank. So for cylinders bank 1 through 3, one is over here, and there's a mark on the top of the cam here. If you can see it there, you can zoom in and see it. Yeah, there it is, just a little bit off. Now, the way you set it is you've got this great big nut right here on each of the cams, okay? And there's a nylon lock in here. And you loosen this up with the special tool, which I actually had a few of these made up on a water jet. They're very simple. And it's identical to the original Maserati tool. And so you use this to loosen up this big nut while you lock the cam in place using either a piece of leather or a piece of paper under here. Tighten this up and it holds the cam securely. Yeah, you loosen that, and then when you get the cam into the position that you want, you can move. There's a small toothed wheel in here. There's one right there, and that toothed wheel inside under the chain is permanent. That doesn't move. This one over here does move, and you rotate this until you feel it get into a spot where, you know, and you can see that it'll go and mesh into the teeth over there, and then you lock this into place and it's there. You do that with both cams, and you're done. Yeah, not a whole lot to it.